All right, everyone. Trump decided it was a good idea to go and visit India, and I happen to agree. It was a spectacular idea, and it gave him one of the best tweets that he's ever made, which was of this get-together where over 100,000 people were watching him and Modi give a speech, and I guess they were like singing Macho Man beforehand, and it was just very memetic, and it was extremely Trump and extremely Modi. And Modi is sort of like, sort of like Trump in this sense. Boris Johnson to a lesser extent as well. You've got this new class of world leaders who sort of understand the internet thing and they understand memes in some respect. Trump is definitely the master of this, but there are others that are quite good. Modi's definitely one of them. The optics of having a stadium, a rather large one, filled to capacity, probably with overflow of 100,000 more people outside, all chanting the same thing, in an almost liturgical form, actually, at times. Of course, Modi does use Hinduism as part of his quasi-nationalism. There's sort of a Hindu identity movement thing with him. It was very effective. It was an extremely good idea for Trump to go there, and it's good for the U.S. and India. And I'll tell you what, I've thought for years now that if I were investing, I would hedge my bets on India, not on China. Because China's a paper palace that's built out of knockoff tech and basically at this point even stagnancy, a transference towards neoliberalism in some respects you actually see, whereas India is full speed ahead, full throttle. There's a difference in growth at this point. There's a difference in, I think, potential power as well. There's a difference in the proportion of arable land, among other things. India has plenty of problems. That being said, I think they would be easier to tackle than China's problems. I think that India, not China, will eventually be more dominant, economically, possibly in a military sense. I just get that sense from the situation there. I would definitely invest in India if I had money to invest specifically in foreign firms. I think that would be long-term a bigger payoff. It makes sense infinitely for the United States to partner more with India. Keep in mind, India is one of the BRICS nations as well, and it's funny because despite the fact, I remember years ago when all of the Russia people were like, well, BRICS is going to destroy this Western bullshit once and for all, haha, imperialists, pigs, and that never actually happened. What's happened instead is Brazil, which is part of BRICS, ended up undergoing a political revolution of sorts. They're now leaning towards libertarianism, adopting elements of more free market systems. Bolsonaro is more friendly towards the West. India has swung to the West, and this didn't even begin with Trump. To his credit, Obama actually got the ball rolling initially. Trump decided to keep it rolling, which I think is good. Trump, as far as relations with India and certain other countries, has definitely been a boon to the United States in a diplomatic sense. People say less so with Western Europe, but the thing is, a nation that's been your ally for 2 centuries, you probably don't have to worry about pissing off a little bit once in a while. You probably do, though, have to worry about expanding the U.S. sphere if you want to do that and having more partnerships and more, cooperation going on around the world. India would definitely be #1 or close to it on that list. Hell, Trump has managed to, have a sit-down with Kim Jong-un. That's something that no other U.S. president's done in a while. And Modi, also to his credit, has been, a reasonably good statesman as well. But the optics of this, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with the election, but it has everything to do with the election too. This is pure Trump. This is sort of if I had to choose a moment that so far exemplifies the beginning of the general election mentality of Donald Trump, because he's technically been campaigning since he got elected. Technically, he never stopped campaigning. He's held rallies over and over again since the day he took the presidency, buffing up the popular support in critical areas with his core audience, because this is going to drive turnout a lot higher. It's a very smart strategy. This, though, would be that moment. This would be his pitch, essentially, from India to the people of the United States. Think of the optics win here. Here you've got him getting cheered on in a spectacular manner by a crowd that dwarfs even his own rallies in the United States. In a foreign country, comprised of people that supposedly Trump is racist against, by the way, showing off his diplomatic capabilities in a spectacular fashion, and showing off, I think, his prominence as a world leader at the same time. optically this is nothing but an A-plus win for Trump. This is the moment that the general begins, as opposed to the other rallies, which are large. I mean, Trump holds a New Jersey rally, manages to get, what, 40,000 people to show up. In New Jersey, of all places. One of the most fucking deep blue places you could possibly be. Chris Christieville. Him getting smashed. Donald Trump keeps doing this over and over again. The only thing close to comparable that you have on the Dem side is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, who is already alienating people that he desperately would need as allies in order to win and wage in a general election. And he may not even be nominee. It could still be boring Biden or hayseed Dracula that pulls it off. Technically speaking, it could still be Michael, I'm the most corrupt person in the field. Wow, that's astonishing, Bloomberg. I'm just trying to think of how goddamn funny it would be if Bloomberg were the nominee. Oh my god. All of the jokes. Oh, it's going to be an excellent election. I can't wait for the general election to begin. I can't wait for there to be one Democrat that I can jest about, because it's going to be a hilarious time. It's almost like not even worth taking seriously, because nobody in the field, I have a feeling, is going to be that big a challenge. Again, I'm not a Trump superfan. I'm not a Republican and never have been, and I'm certainly not a conservative. And I'm sitting there, yeah, Trump will probably win, and I think that's a good thing. I think when I see this sort of imagery, I mean, can you imagine Obama getting that sort of standing ovation? China, excellent example from even earlier in his presidency, one of the first major state visits Trump does in China. Trump gets the star treatment as though it was fucking Chinese New Year. There's like dragons and parades and fireworks and shit for his visit. Obama, meanwhile, his last state visit to China, they didn't roll out the red carpet. They didn't even have a greeting ceremony. He arrives, he gets off the plane under his own power, goes to his own limo, and then goes and very privately meets with Xi Jinping. Trump, meanwhile, is treated like royalty wherever he goes. There's a little bit of a difference there. The only people that deign to try to snub him are people like Trudeau, who's an irrelevant world leader at this point. Nobody likes him. He's basically a lame duck too. He doesn't even have, the will of his own people. Liberals got destroyed, but somehow still managed to keep him as prime minister. Macron, look at what's happening in France. The least popular leaders in the world hate Trump. I wonder if there's a correlation here. That's about all. Peace out.